Those aren't miracles. And he is not God.
What in the world did Firecracker do to deserve such a horrible death at the hands of her own god, Homelander? That is the question hanging over The Boys Season 5, Episode 5, because at first glance, it looks simple. Firecracker doubted Homelander, and Homelander punished her for it. But the truth is far darker than that. Firecracker did not die because she betrayed him. She died because she finally discovered what she truly meant to Homelander. Nothing. She was never family, never a true partner, never some chosen disciple standing beside him. She was useful, and in Homelander's world, usefulness is the only thing that matters. The moment that usefulness disappears, so does mercy. That is why her death feels so brutal. She dies still trying to prove loyalty to the very man who has already decided she no longer matters. What makes this even more tragic is that Firecracker genuinely believed in Homelander. She built her identity around him. She reshaped her faith, her career, and even her sense of morality just to stay close to his power. In many ways, she turned Homelander into her religion. That is why her death feels so cruel. She was not killed while fighting against him. She was not exposed as some secret traitor working with the boys. She was killed while begging to stay. She died trying to convince him that she still believed. And that reveals the terrifying truth about Homelander in Season 5. He no longer wants loyalty. He wants worship. Throughout this season, Homelander has been moving away from simply being a superhero and closer to becoming something far more dangerous. He no longer wants to be admired as America's greatest hero. He wants to replace God. That sounds extreme, but everything about his behavior points to it. He demands absolute faith. He treats disagreement like blasphemy. He punishes doubt like a religious crime. He speaks less like a leader and more like a prophet of himself. In his mind, he is not just stronger than everyone else. He is morally superior. He believes he is right by nature. That is what makes him terrifying now. When someone believes they are God, cruelty stops feeling like cruelty and starts feeling like justice. That is why Soldier Boy revealing Firecracker's doubts becomes so dangerous. He mentions that Firecracker has been struggling with her shift from traditional Christianity to complete devotion to Homelander. She built her public image around religion, patriotism, and moral certainty, but now even that had to change. Suddenly, Jesus was not enough. Suddenly, Homelander had to be the center of everything. Firecracker tried to make that transition because power demanded it, but deep down, some part of her clearly knew how wrong it was. What is important is that when Homelander confronts her, he does not kill her immediately. That changes everything. His first response is simple. Leave. Pack your things, get out of Seven Tower, and disappear. No violence, no dramatic execution, just exile. That tells us something crucial. If Firecracker's doubt was truly unforgivable, she would have died on the spot. Homelander has killed people for much less. The fact that he offers her a chance to walk away means that, at that moment, he does not even think she is worth killing. She is not important enough for that. She is just being discarded. That may be even crueler than death itself. Firecracker believed she was special. She thought being close to Homelander made her untouchable. She thought she had become one of the chosen few. But in that moment, she learns the truth. She was always disposable. She was useful because she helped spread his message, defended his ego, and gave him the worship he needed. The moment that loyalty cracked, she became irrelevant. Not hated, not feared, just forgotten. That is the real cruelty of narcissistic power. It does not destroy people because they oppose it. It destroys them because they stop being useful. But Firecracker makes one final mistake, and that is what truly gets her killed. Instead of leaving, she begs, she pleads with Homelander. She tells him her faith is still real. She insists she still believes in him. She tries to say exactly what she thinks he wants to hear. And that is the moment he decides she dies. Why? Because now it is no longer about doubt. It is about dishonesty. Homelander has always had a strange relationship with truth. For all his madness, he sometimes respects brutal honesty more than fake worship. That is why Sister Sage survives where others fail. She tells him uncomfortable truths instead of flattering him. Earlier this season, Homelander even admitted how much he hated that everyone around him was too afraid to be honest. Fear creates fake loyalty, and fake loyalty disgusts him. So maybe Firecracker's real crime was not losing faith. Maybe it was pretending she still had it. In Homelander's eyes, false worship may be worse than open disbelief. Think about how twisted that is. She tries to save herself by performing loyalty, and that performance becomes the reason she dies. Once Homelander senses that desperation, patience disappears. She becomes like an annoyance he no longer wants to tolerate. And then comes one of the most symbolic deaths in the series. He slams her head into a metal eagle statue, and the wing impales her skull. The symbolism is brutal. The American eagle, the symbol of patriotism, nationalism, and the exact false image Firecracker built her career around, literally kills her. She spent her entire life selling that image, and in the end, it became the weapon that ended her life. What makes this death hit even harder is that The Boys somehow makes us feel sympathy for Firecracker in her final episode. That should not be easy. She was introduced as someone audiences were meant to hate, manipulative, selfish, cruel, and built like a walking conspiracy machine. But Episode 5 changes that by finally showing us where she came from. The arrival of the Reverend from her hometown reveals the person underneath the performance. We learn that Firecracker had a genuinely hard childhood. Poverty, hunger, and instability shaped her life. Not glamorous tragedy, real insecurity. The kind where basic meals were uncertain and survival became your first lesson. That matters because people who grow up without safety often spend the rest of their lives chasing it. Security becomes more important than morality. Stability becomes more valuable than truth. And that explains almost everything about Firecracker. Why does she cling so hard to power? Why does she betray people she once loved? Why does she let Homelander reshape her entire belief system? Because for the first time in her life, she feels safe. As Homelander's chosen disciple, she has wealth, status, relevance, and protection. Everything she never had. Going back would mean returning to fear, and she cannot accept that. That is why the scene where she publicly condemns her own pastor feels so painful. You can see the conflict on her face. A single tear falls as she destroys a man who once helped save her. She knows it is wrong. She knows she is betraying something real. But survival wins. Again. That is Firecracker's tragedy. She keeps choosing safety over truth until there is almost nothing left of the original person underneath. Then comes the most devastating symbol of all. She throws away the Jesus action figure she has carried since childhood. That moment says everything. It is not just a toy. It is memory, faith, innocence, and the person she used to be. It represents the last piece of her real self. And she throws it into a Vought trash can without hesitation. That is the moment Firecracker truly dies, long before Homelander kills her physically. Because that is her final choice. She chooses him completely. She chooses a false god over real faith. She gives up the last part of herself just to stay close to power. And the tragedy is that it still is not enough. Homelander kills her anyway. That is what makes this so horrifying. She sacrificed everything for him, and he still did not care. Evil in The Boys does not always destroy people by force. Sometimes it lets them destroy themselves first. While all of this is happening, another emotional shift is taking place with Butcher, and surprisingly, it may be the most hopeful part of the episode. For the first time in a long time, the boys start feeling like a family again. After all the betrayal, mistrust, and emotional damage of previous seasons, there is finally warmth returning. Maybe it is Terror's ridiculous chocolate disaster. Maybe it is the aftermath of Fort Harmony forcing everyone to confront themselves. Maybe everyone is simply too tired to keep fighting. But something changes. There is a connection again. That matters because the team is facing the biggest strategic decision of the season, the final V1 doses. Whoever controls that V1 controls the future. If Homelander gets it, he becomes nearly untouchable. Immune to the virus. Practically immortal. A god with no expiration date. That cannot happen. But Huey and others want the V1 for another reason. To protect the people they love, like Annie and Kimiko. For most of the season, Butcher has leaned toward pure, ruthless logic. Destroy it. Remove the risk. No compromise. That is classic Butcher. Cold, practical, and willing to sacrifice almost anything for the mission. So when he suddenly changes his mind and agrees to let Annie and Kimiko take it, it feels huge. Why does he do it? The answer is Lenny.